here I am trying to figure out how to get a 90 degree. And actually using one of these is fine for short distances, but for long distances, it's not really that precise, because if over 12 inches, you're 1 degree off, then over 12 feet, you're gonna be several inches and maybe even feet off. Geometry says that you can get a 90 degree by measuring a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So that's what I did here. So today is a good day. Today is actually a very exciting day. It's a day I've been waiting for a while now. I actually could not sleep last night. Today is the day the solar racks are gonna go on the roof of the bus, I hope. And actually, despite that everything is it's freaking freezing, the whole roof of the bus is covered in frost. Look at this. This is the roof of the bus. It's completely covered in this thick, thick frost. Look at that. Look at how thick that shit is. It's like snow, but it's not. Luckily, I finished sealing the roof yesterday. But whatever, never mind the cold. So here I am up on the roof of my bus, ready to mount my solar racks. And the solar rack that I have to mount is it's a SunPower solar rack. I don't know if you guys know it. SunPower is a pretty famous solar company. They're actually publicly traded. They're one of the best. They're considered one of the best to have a SunPower solar rack and matching 400-watt SunPower solar panels, which are 72 inches wide or 72 inches long by 40 inches wide. And what I'm planning to do is put 2 rails, just parallel rails along the length of the bus, and then the solar panels are going to go perpendicular to the length of the bus this way. So the first step is kind of measuring out and marking some important measurements. So the first thing we need to do is find the center line. And I'm going to shout out here again to Chuck Cassidy. Chuck Cassidy put out a video about solar racking the way he does it. And I drew a lot of inspiration from him because he's a beast and he knows what the fuck he's talking about. But I don't know. First of all, I'm doing it 100% on my own and making these measurements. So I had some additional ways to double check and back up the way that he did. So what I have here set up these are actually 2 rails. They're SunPower rails. There's two solar racking rails, which are butted up parallel to the side of the bus. And then in the middle, I have a 3rd rail. And these are aluminum rails. They're definitely straight enough for the purposes of finding the center line of the bus. So I mounted them up. And then basically what I did is first of all, so like Chuck Cassidy said, I zeroed one of these angle measurement devices on the inside front of the bus. And then basically what I did is I put this 3rd rail parallel, and then I tried to mount it so that it was horizontal. And then basically what I know is that I have these two vertical rails and 1 horizontal rail, and these are all perfectly aligned, or well enough aligned with the sides of the bus. And then I took a tape measure and put it out from side to side, and I see it's literally 96 inches. It's a bit over 96, so 96 and a half around. And then I put out a tape, and then 96 divided by 2 is 48, and it's really just 48 and a little bit more. So basically what ends up is this little rivet is the exact middle of the bus. And then the way that I'm gonna proceed from here, I mean, ideally I would take the 2 side things off, take them back or forwards on the bus, and then find another center point and then snap a line between the 2, as Chuck likes to call it. And I actually bought, on Chuck's inspiration, one of these little chalk markers, and I'm definitely gonna use it to mark the lines that I'm gonna put up the solar rails on. So thank you for that, Chuck, again. Yeah, this whole video is going to be kind of like a shout out to you. You're the bomb. So this is kind of like just a video of me who didn't know what to do beforehand, following kind of Chuck's guidelines and hopefully doing a good job. So yeah, I mean, I now have the middle point. Basically what I can do is, I mean, I'm going to be too lazy, I think, to set up these 2 vertical pieces in another spot and then do another line. And I just want to talk about these L brackets for a second. So these are aluminum L brackets. They're actually solar racking L brackets. I got them at like a commercial solar place. And basically, obviously they're perpendicular. They're just 90 degrees, but the bus isn't, the roof of the bus. So if this is the curvature of the roof of the bus, I'm going to be mounting the rails, these L feet like this. And obviously if I would just put them on the roof of the bus, then they would look like this. And then when I put the rails would go here, and then there wouldn't be a flat line between the rails. So what I need to do is create a situation where the L feet are sitting like this, despite the curvature of the roof of the bus. So what I did, and this is actually, again, Chuck Cassidy's idea, I epoxied on some aluminum bar to here, and I went ahead and didn't do just 1 thick piece of aluminum bar. I did 2 pieces, 1 3/4 inch and 1/2, just to make it slightly more like sloped, so that it wouldn't be like a sharp edge digging into the steel sheet metal. And then I covered the whole thing with butyl tape.
And then I'm just going to talk about tolerances for a split second here because, yeah, I mean, definitely I'm trying to get it as precise as possible, but like a half a degree or like a tenth of a degree or 1 degree in either direction is not going to be a huge deal. And this butyl tape is going to compress, and there's going to be there's going to be such a big range of angles that I'm going to be able to mount these, that it's not super critical to get it like bang spot on to the 0.1 of a degree exact. So basically I was looking for a situation where I would get between 4.5 and 5 feet of distance between the L feet. And I found exactly that, and everything just kind of worked out for me perfectly because I measured before the butyl tape. I measured the angle, if I were to put this just on the floor, the angle that this thing gets to, and it gets to 12 degrees off center, off of like the 90 degrees, like, or whatever. So 0, it depends what you put the 0, if you put the 0 horizontal or vertical. So it gets to 12 degrees. So I was looking for something in the range of 12 degrees, but honestly, it doesn't matter if it's going to be 11 degrees or 13 degrees. Those are all going to work. And for me, it really worked out like bang spot on. The distance between the holes, if I do it exactly at 12 degrees, basically in the one spot that I measured, I'm going to measure a couple other spots just to verify. The distance between the holes is, what did I say? 58 inches. And then you add another inch to get to the edge of this. No, not 58, 28 and 30. Yeah, just about 60 inches. Yeah, sorry, 58. Yeah, 58, that's what I said. And the panel width is 72. Yeah, okay, cool. Sorry, I got confused there with my math. 12 multiples, not 10 multiples, because there are 12 inches in a foot, not 12. There are 12 inches in a foot, not 10. So yeah, it's 58. So I found if I mark a hole exactly at 12 degrees, again, plus or minus a degree, I get to a distance between the holes of 58 inches, and then you add basically 1 inch on each side to get to where the edge, the outside of the L bracket. So you really get to 60 inches, which is 5 feet, and then I'm gonna have a half foot overhang because my whole panels are 6 feet wide, they're 72 inches. Yeah, so that's sitting well in my head now. So yeah, so exactly. So this all seems like it's going to check out, but my main point is that the tolerance for these things, this butyl tape is going to compress and squeeze, and it's not going to go down to 0 anywhere, 0 height between the aluminum and the steel sheet metal. So there's going to be a bunch of give there anyways that you can angle it. So the way I'm actually planning to attach them is I'm going to put in sheet metal screws or rivet nuts, whatever it is, roofing screws, and put them in the location where they're going to be. And then I'm going to kind of put a piece, I'm going to attach the rails before I tighten them up all the way. And then I'm going to put a piece on top of the rails, which is going to hold the rails perfectly parallel to each other. So the top part of them is parallel. And then I'm going to tighten up the L feet, the bolts, which are holding the L feet in place. And that's going to, the structure of having the flat line connecting the two rails, and then the two rails being connected directly to the L feet, and the L feet being screwed in, that's just going to force the butyl tape to squeeze out in the precise like orientation that it should be, which is going to keep the two rails parallel. And honestly, I had a second thought afterwards, because yesterday or 2 days ago was the first day I used like this. There's the JB Weld putty, metal putty, which is just like putty and then it turns into metal after it dries within like 4 hours or something. Honestly, that could have been a good way to do this, or you could 3D print little triangle blocks, which will give you the exact angle you want, and then you could just seal them with, I don't know, any type of roof sealer. Those could all be good viable options to get this done. This is just what I happened to do, and actually it's really because of Chuck. He did this, so I was like, that's a good way to do it. I'm going to do it that way as well. But there are other options to get this done. Yeah, so let's go ahead. Let's go up on the roof. I'm going to place a couple of things, start measuring some lines, and hopefully everything will check out and go smoothly. So I'm going to actually go ahead and find where 12 degrees is. And then what I'm going to do here, yeah, I'm going to find the place here where this is going to show. Yeah, so it's just about here is 12 degrees. So I'm going to put 12 degrees on each side, a marking at 12 degrees on each side. And then I'm just going to compare and contrast that and try to figure out how I can figure out a way to get something around, so my panels, like I said, are 6 feet wide, so something around 5 feet of width. So I'll have a half foot overhanging. I want to have between 4.5 and 5 feet of width between the rails. And that's just about going to coincide with the 12 degree mark. As far as attaching the L bracket to the roof, I'm kind of split. I'm not sure if I should. I don't want to go through because I have the interior of the bus is stock, so I'm not going to go do a through bolt. I'm either going to do roofing screws. I have, I think, number 12 1.5-inch roofing screws, or I was thinking of doing riv nuts. And then, so I think the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to start with the roofing screws, because a riv nut will require me to drill 3/8-inch holes. So I can always start with a self-tapping roofing screw, and then if I feel like that isn't enough, then I can use that as a pre-hole for the riv nut hole, and then I can drill that out to 3/8 and then put in a 1/4-inch riv nut, which will definitely be strong enough. Potentially I could put riv nuts on the front and rear, or maybe the front 2 and rear 2, and then in the middle I'll put roofing sheet metal screws if I think that's necessary. But honestly, these rails, I'm going to be attaching them at every single one of these ribs, of the bus. So that's a total of 22 ribs. I mean, there's a total of 11 ribs, and they're going to be attached obviously on both sides. So it's 11 ribs over a 30-foot length. So it's like almost an L bracket every 2 feet almost. So it should be strong enough. But I'll update on my progress and we'll see how it goes. Just taking a little food break while I let the roof of the bus dry off, because a guy's got to eat. I made this amazing savory bread pudding. But yeah, just waiting for the roof to dry off because it'll make everything easier and less slippery and easier to mark. And then I'm going to go ahead and start marking where I'm going to attach the L feet. All right, so here we are back to work. This freaking Arizona sun, it's really hot, so I took off my wool shirt. And here I am trying to figure out how to get a 90-degree. And actually, using one of these is fine for short distances, but for long distances, it's not really that precise, because if over 12 inches, you're 1 degree off, then over 12 feet, you're going to be several inches and maybe even feet off. Geometry says that you can get a 90-degree by measuring a 3-4-5 triangle. So that's what I did here. I measured 3 feet between this point over here and that point over here. And then I measured out 4 feet along that way, and then the hypotenuse should be 5 feet. And then where those two measuring tapes meet, that'll mean this is a 90 degrees. So I'm going to do that, one on each end, and then I'm going to extend. That'll give me at least a much better precision than this. I could also go, instead of going with 3, 4, 5, I could also go with, I think, I could definitely go with double that, so 6, 8, 10. But 6 and 8, yeah, 6. I mean, 6, I could still measure 6 across the roof of the bus. But then I would start getting into issues because, like, there's the curvature, so I'm going to need to try to extrapolate the lengths into the height. And I do have like a laser measuring device. This thing shoots out 2 lasers out each side, but in this bright sun, I don't even know actually how visible it's going to be. So for now, I'm going to try the 3, 4, 5 triangle method and see if that can work out. And then I'm going to extend the lines, measure at the back to see if it's still the same width between them, distance, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so the 3, 4, 5 method, useful. Thank you geometry in 8th grade or whatever. So let's just double check this, because you know what they say, measure once, curse twice, or something like that. So I'm at the measuring and marking stage, and I just want to go over a few of the tools that I'm using, which is going to make this easier. And honestly, if I had another person helping me, this whole thing would be a lot easier. But I decided to make use of, first of all, obviously, several measuring tapes. I'm also using, this is something I just picked up at it's just like it's like an expandable ruler, it like folds up, but it kind of has like a certain amount of stiffness, but it has a certain amount of flexibility. So this is super useful, just like laying it out, measuring up to like 4 to 5, 6 feet. 5 feet, this will work. And then I also have this chalk marker thing, which I actually haven't used really yet, but I'm also using these little magnet hooks. These are super useful in the bus. We use them to hang stuff from our ceiling on the inside because we got a metal ceiling, but this is also super useful to like temporarily mark things. And then one other useful thing that I'm using is just this string, and then I'm using these hook magnets to mark spots temporarily. And then the way I use the string is, first of all, I measured out these first 4 points. And this is a perfect rectangle where the sides are 4. This is 4, and then the distance between these two is 58 and 3/16. And then these lines are parallel and they're perfectly perpendicular. I measured that out using both diagonals and the 3, 4, 5 method that I went over earlier. And then, so basically what I need to do is extend these 2 parallel lines to the front and back of the bus. So the way I extended them to the back of the bus is, first of all, I marked them off using I marked them temporarily using the magnets, the hook magnets, which are super useful. And then what I did is I tied a little piece of string. I put a magnet over there, I tied a piece of string, and then what I do is I pull the string tight, and then get it close to this little magnet. And what I want to see is the 3 little hooks touching the string at the same time. And that's when I know that I placed it well. So I've now got, I hope you can see that. I don't know how clear it is, and honestly, this is only something that I need to do this difficult way because I'm one person doing this by myself. So if you're trying to do it by yourself, it's possible. But definitely if I had another person helping me like tension the lines in between and slightly moving the pieces in a tiny bit at any given time, it would make it a lot easier for sure. But yeah, with one person it's possible. So now I have these 3 magnetic hooks lined up, and they're perfectly parallel and straight, and the distance between those as well is 58 and 3/16. I'm going to double check everything one more time, and then I'm going to mark it, because right now the only 2 points that I have marked are these 2. So I'm going to mark those 2 with a marker, and then those 2 with a marker, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to get to the front of the bus, because I just did the back. All right, so we're making some good progress. I have
the rear two ends marked off. And then I did the same thing to mark off the front two ends. As far as like the self-tappers versus rivet nuts, I'm going to try self-tappers at first, and then if those don't work, then I can always expand the hole and put in a 1/4 inch rivet nut. For a 1/4 inch rivet nut, I'm going to need a 3/8 inch hole to put in the rivet nut, and then I can use 1/4 inch bolts. And I have all stainless steel hardware, but it's going to be easier definitely not to need to put in the rivet nuts. So I have some roofing screws. I have 1.5 inch number 12 roofing screws, which have a built-in neoprene washer, which is cool because it's sealed, but it's actually not big enough. So I'm going to put a fender washer, a stainless steel fender washer, and then I'm going to put the neoprene washer and then the roofing screw, and hopefully that'll work. And like I said, I'm going to have 11 L brackets along each side holding up the solar rail, and that's it. I mean, it's now, what time is it? It's 1:30, and I started working on this actually pretty late. I don't know if it was 9 or 10 or 11, something like that. So considering I'm doing this all myself, I'm making some pretty good progress, and I'm happy. I'm definitely happy about the precision of these measurements and everything, the way it's coming out in parallel. And obviously we're talking about a 30-foot length in total, so you don't have to get to the resolution of like 1/16 of an inch. Like, it's going to be fine. There's going to be that much give over 30 feet. But yeah, we're basically exact to plus or minus 1/16 of an inch, so that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to double check all these measurements, make sure they do it again, so I'm not going to curse twice after this, after I drill holes, and then I'm going to get to drilling holes. And then it may seem obvious, but I want to give one tip about using a measuring tape and how to get like really exact measurements. So you know how at the front of a measuring tape, there's like this top part, and then it has like a little like 1 millimeter give in it to, like, you know, whether you're measuring the inside or the outside. One trick to get exact measurements with it is to ignore the first inch, and instead of measuring from the beginning of this, measure from the 1 inch mark. And then you can see exactly where you can place that 1 inch mark. Again, these are an open dimension where you have plenty of room on either side, but it's just to measure from the 1 inch mark and then subtract an inch from the final reading that you get. And that'll enable you to get much more precise measurements. So yeah, that's just a little tip about using like measuring tapes or measuring sticks, or rulers, honestly, like, because sometimes the first inch, like the very beginning of it, is kind of like, I don't know, it could be missing a 0.5 millimeter here or there. So yeah, measure from the 1 inch line, and then don't forget to subtract an inch from your measurement. Okay, so I now have 3 points on each side of the roof marked off with where I need to drill holes / just install a sheet metal, like a roofing screw. So I'm actually contemplating which would be the best way to proceed. I think what I'm going to do is actually put together these rails and then attach them using those 3 places, and that's going to give me the straightest line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the front, back, and middle, because this isn't the middle. It's pretty much, actually, it's pretty close to the middle. It's slightly rear leaning, but it's pretty close to the middle, and we're only talking about 30 feet in total. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to install 2 L brackets in the front, 2 L brackets in the middle, 2 L brackets in the rear, and then I'm going to install the rails. I'm going to attach the rails onto those L brackets in those 3 places. And then putting on the rest of the L brackets is going to be pretty easy, because I just need to put the L bracket. I can even attach the L bracket to the rail first, and then just wherever it falls, drill a hole, and that'll give me a perfect setup. And then in order to keep the rails parallel, to the plane of the bus, what I'm going to do is I may even put a solar panel to keep them straight. And then if I bolt down the solar panel, that's going to make sure the rails, the top planes, are perfectly parallel. Then I can tighten the 3 pairs of L brackets, and then I know the rails and the L brackets are sitting parallel, and then I can attach the rest of the L brackets by drilling holes and installing them and tightening everything up. So I think that's the way I'm going to do it. That just seems like the easiest way to get the most precise connection, to get the most precisely parallel rails, and the easiest. So I think I'm gonna try that method. We'll see how it works. Honestly, if I had a helper that I could kind of snap a chalk line between the front and rear, and then that would also just enable me to verify that it goes over that middle point, then that may also be an easy method. But I think honestly, attaching the rail at first is going to guarantee that the L feet are going to be positioned in the right place. So I don't know, we'll see. But definitely, I'm going to try to do it myself. I don't have anyone helping me. The awesome people who I'm staying at their house for now, they're actually in Mexico. They're gone. So I don't even have a helping hand. So I'm going to have to do this all 100% solico. So I mentioned that I was going to try self-tapping roofing screws, but I never showed what they are. So I got these. They're Tex 1.5 inch. This is a selfie camera, so everything's going to be backwards. But they're self-drilling roofing screws, number 12 in diameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these self-tappers, and then I got stainless steel fender washers, 1/4 by 1 inch, which I'm going to use to put on top of them.
because these screws have this little washer, but the hole in the L bracket is quite large. So yeah, I'll just put the fender washer, the neoprene washer, the fender washer, and then the L bracket, the L foot. And then I'm just going to use this little impact driver. This is an M12. A lot of people use the M18, but the M12 is kind of like a DIY, and this thing is so freaking tiny, but it's powerful as hell. So I'm going to use this to try to tap in the screw. Let's see if it works. And then honestly, because this is my first one and I'm kind of nervous about drilling holes in my roof, I think I'm actually going to pre-drill a small hole just so I make sure I get it in the exact right location. Or maybe, yeah, I'll make a puncture mark and then I'll drill it. 1 second. There, so I just made a little hole. I didn't even go through, I just made a little marking with a tiny drill bit. And then I can go ahead and not worry about this stuff going in properly. I'm going to pre-drill this. That was easy. I don't know, maybe these roofing screws aren't meant to drill through freaking thick ass metal. All right, we got that in. The moral of the story is pre-drill a small hole with this guy and then do the through hole with the roofing screw. Lesson learned. All right, yeah, that second one was way easier. So then this is what it looks like mounted. And then there's a fair amount of give here because the holes here aren't actually holes, they're ovals. Same thing here on the bottom. So there's gonna be a fair amount of like front and back and angular play that we can get once we put the actual rail on. So I'm really not too worried about the preciseness of these holes. I definitely feel comfortable that the holes that I drilled are definitely gonna be precise enough. And then look at that, this is pretty perpendicular. Let's actually get an angle measurement of that just to see what's up. On, so let's see that. I can't even see that. Let's try to get it from the other side. Yeah, 0, so that's perfect. That's like perfectly level. The bus is, I think, parked on 0, it's a 0.2 angle. So this isn't zeroed, but yeah, this is definitely close enough to perpendicular. So overall, big win. I got the first 2 L brackets in. Let's get the other 4. And I wanted to point out an important, if somewhat counterintuitive issue when drilling these holes. So ideally, you don't want these screws perpendicular to the roof, kind of like this. You want them perpendicular to, like, parallel to this. So I only at the beginning, I kind of drilled a little bit inside just so the hole wouldn't slip. But then as soon as I got some grip in it, I turned it like so it would be as perpendicular, kind of like to the ground or to the floor of the bus, kind of, because that's so that when I put on the L feet, when they're pressed down, I want the whole head of the screw pushing down, and ideally the floor of this L foot, the L foots go like this, so I want it to be like this and not like this. And that's the difference between that slight angle. And it's peanuts, it's little things, but it's little things like that that make your bus completely leak proof and awesome, or maybe sometimes have some little leaks or things like that, or like small problems. So I got a little box of butyl taped L brackets, all laid out like soldiers, which I so thoughtfully prepared in advance. And now I'm gonna go ahead and attach another 4 of them, 2 to the front, 2 to the back, and then I'm gonna connect the pieces of rail and install them. Wish me luck. Four down, 2 to go. So I didn't record those last 2 because how many times can you watch someone drilling and pre-drilling and then drilling sheet metal screws? But suffice to say that I got better at it and more efficient. Obviously just pre-drilling both holes first and then expanding the size with the sheet metal screw without the L bracket attached, and then just tapping the L bracket in. So we're done. We got 6 L brackets, and if I previously was contemplating whether or not I was going to use rivet nuts or these roofing screws are solid as hell. There's no way they're going to be coming out. They tap in beautifully strong, and I'm not even tapping into sheet metal. I'm tapping into sheet metal, which is going into the ribs, which is pretty thick metal. So yeah, there's no way those are coming out. And honestly, installing rivet nuts, first of all, is definitely a ton of work, but also getting the rivet nut itself to install properly
times 11 on each side, so times 22 is going to be a very sketchy process. So, and also drilling 3/8 holes. Yeah, the sheet metal screws is definitely the answer. So, and fear not, like these L brackets are solid as hell. I mean, look at that. I haven't even screwed them in yet, but I'm getting plenty of like out squeeze of the butyl rubber. Yeah, so these all look really good. I'm gonna go ahead and connect 3 pieces of these rails together to get to 30 feet. It's actually slightly over 30 feet. I'm gonna have to cut it off, cut the end. But yeah, let's get the show on the road. So each of my 2 rails are gonna run the whole length of the bus front to back, which is 30 feet. But these rails are only between like 10 and 11 feet each. So the way you connect them is using this little insert. And the way you do that is, you see these have a certain profile, and this has a similar profile. How does this go? Like this. See that? I think this is right. This is right. And then this just sort of slides into here, halfway. And then you slide the other piece on, bolt it in, and then you got one long rail. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect these 2 pieces together, then I'm gonna connect another one, and then I'm gonna make another long 30-foot rail. So I have a whole bus full of screws of various sizes and lengths, but the damn thing is they screwed some big freaking holes into this little insert. So I was only able to find like 6 of these thick screws. I'm gonna try them and try to just attach this one thing, but I'm gonna have to go do a quick Home Depot run and pick up some more of these types of like thick screws. I don't even know if these are sheet metal. I think these are definitely like zinc plated. It doesn't really matter because it's going into aluminum. It's not steel, so there isn't gonna be any rust. Whoa, I gotta shave. But yeah, there shouldn't be any rust, but I'm gonna try these, see if they work, and if I find something better at Home Depot, then I'll pick up some more. So these screws actually work perfectly. They're super easy. I mean, I'm screwing into aluminum, so it's a much softer metal, so it's a lot easier to get into. But yeah, I'm gonna go do a Home Depot run, see if I can pick up some more of these, or what I can pick up. I don't know, who knows. And then put the rest of these together. But yeah, this totally works and it's great. And there's no really issue of strength here because each of these little rails is going to be attached by several L feet. Yeah, everything's going to be super solid. So like there isn't an issue of strength here. So on the one hand, it's kind of a bummer that I need to do this Home Depot run. But honestly, I don't really mind because I don't need to actually pack up my bus and drive it there. I don't even need to get in the car. I'm taking my personal teleportation device. And Home Depot is a mile away from where I'm staying. So I will get there in literally 3 minutes to inside the door of Home Depot. And that's faster than I would go if I even needed to. If I even got in the car, pulled out the driveway, and stopped at a stop sign, it would take me more time. So this personal teleporter is pretty awesome, and I don't really mind doing this Home Depot run. I'll be right back. So I teleported to Home Depot and back. Mission was a success. I got these quarter inch by 3/4 of an inch sheet metal screws, pen head. Yeah, and this is my teleportation device, but that's for a different video. And actually, since it's so easy to put these rails together, I'm actually going to take them up onto the roof and put them together up there because they're going to be 30 feet long once I put them together, and they'll be more of a hassle. So I'm going to put them all up on the roof, put them together there, attach them into the L brackets, and then screw down the L brackets, like the L feet, so that they're all tight and parallel and nice. And then I'm going to add the rest of the L feet, which is another, I put in 3 on each side, so it's another 8 because I got 11 in total on each side. So the sun is setting. It's lower than it was before. It's now 3 o'clock, but we're in winter time. I got these 2 long parallel rails. I'm about to attach them to the L feet. Let's see how this goes. And I'm going to use like these T-nuts, they're called. I'll show you how these work. So these are the T-bolts. And then the way they work is they literally just, so they have this little, in the rail, there's this little channel, and then you just stick the bolt into the channel, and then it can do a half turn, but it can't turn any more than that. So then when you go to put in the nut, you just need to screw on the nut, and then the L foot is going to go right here. So we're about to see how it works. So I'm just gonna take this over here, put this in. I'm definitely going to be mounting it on the higher part of the channel, and then I'm not going to Loctite this right now, just because I'm doing a preliminary, but in the future I'm going to Loctite it. So yeah, this sits very well. Once I tighten that up with the 1/2 inch bit, that'll be good. But before I tighten it up, I'm going to put in the other 3 L brackets, the other 3 feet into the rail, and then see if we can get a shot of that. So that's that. This rail is up. Yeah, and
as you can see, there's plenty of give. I just did a preliminary tightening, but it's sitting as high as it'll go on the L feet. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. But honestly, yeah, this is sitting all really, really well. I don't know if I'm even gonna need to do the whole thing of like putting a solar panel on before I tighten the L feet, because this is looking pretty parallel. I can get one of these guys. Let's see what it's at. I don't know if you can see this. So 4 degrees, but 4 degrees is like, that's gonna be super. I mean, 4 degrees, and I can just like that, just with my bare hands, straighten it out. And I think definitely like 1 degree or 2 degrees is gonna be totally fine. And then this obviously depends where is what, but yeah, it's definitely gonna work out. I'm super happy about this. I went ahead and got this other rail up. We got both rails up. I'm gonna measure them, like their distance apart from each other. And then this one also isn't exactly perpendicular. It's showing 3.5 degrees, but that makes sense because I didn't tighten the L feet at all. And then all the weight is on the outside of this, so it's pulling it down that way. But as soon as I tighten up the feet, it should be fine. So I'm just gonna double check the measurements of the distance between the two things. Although honestly, that also doesn't really matter because the nuts for yeah, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, I definitely want them to be parallel, but the nuts for the solar panels themselves are like, they'll catch any part of the solar panel. They're like SunPower mounts. They're mounting hardware, SunPower mounting hardware. So honestly, that doesn't really matter that much as well, but I'm gonna anyways double check to verify that the distances stayed. But yeah, there's so much flexibility in these things. As you can see, they're all like wiggly with the small amount of L feet. Yeah, see, totally wiggle. But once I lock them down with an L foot every 2 feet or so, they'll be bomber. So let's get the show on the road. Maybe I can finish this before the end of the day. So I'm about to take a measuring tape to these rails. Let's see what we got. 64. Measure another spot. 64. Check one more. Pretty bang spot on. Let's check the front. 64. Oh yeah, bam. So yeah, I'm super happy about how these rails came out. Super parallel. Let's just get a shot of them. Look at those puppies. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and install the rest of the L feet, which I so thoughtfully, like I said, prepared in advance, all 22 of them with butyl tape. Yeah, let's get this done. Let's get this rack solidified. Now I'm gonna say I'm super happy that I decided to go with this install method, because now installing these L feet is gonna be as easy as pie. Because basically, I mean, I know where the ribs are, and then I know where the rail is. So I just need to put the L foot right up against the rail in a spot that there's a rib, stick a drill in, mark the hole, and then just drill it out. So this is gonna take a very, very short time relative to measuring everything, snapping the lines, hoping that getting the lines done with one person, that would have been a hell of a job. So I'm just gonna punch out these holes in a split second and attach the L feet. Well, that's fucking back-breaking. I drilled all the pilot holes. Now that remains is to drill the actual screws into the thing. I'm not gonna record this, but it's literally just going over the exact same thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on the L feet and then screw the L feet into the rail using the T-bolts, and then we're done. So that's it. It's in this motherfucker. Look at that. L feet for days. I still gotta do the other side. I'm gonna get that done now, but I figured I would stop the time lapse because it's gonna be boring. Let's just have a look to see about the angle. So I'm just gonna put this on. I don't know if you can see that. It's 1.5. So 1.5 degrees off perfectly horizontal. So that'll definitely be good enough. And also when I put on the actual solar panels, it'll be able to bring it in. But yeah, one degree, that's pretty fucking good. So I'm happy about the way that came out. I'm gonna go to the other side and then I'm gonna call it a wrap. And look at that, the sun hasn't even gone down. It's 4:15. And I started this, God, I mean,
there was frost all on the roof, so I couldn't even start early morning. I must have only started by like 10 or 11 on the actual solar job, the actual solar rack job. So I'm pretty happy about that. That's how you set up two 30-foot solar rails in 4 hours, completely alone. 100% one person, the whole job. How cool is that? And they came up pretty good and super parallel, so happy. So just in time for a freaking beautiful sunset. You can't see it. Just in time for a beautiful sunset. I'm done. That's a wrap. We got these two rails. All bummer. So yeah, L feet for days. The rack is bummer. Actually, you need to go over these bolts one more time because I haven't tightened those. I tightened these. And then the other side as well is all here. I had to look at the angle meter. I don't know if you can see that. It's showing 1.5 on this side. And then on this side, 1.7. And it depends. I can go to various areas of the, I went to various areas of the racking. This is showing 1.3. It's in reverse because I'm on the freaking selfie mode. 1.5, and the bus is off by 0.2. So yeah, we're talking about between 1 and 2 degrees off of perfectly horizontal. So I'm super happy about that. And yeah, look at these freaking racks. I'm super excited to put, I have 6 400-watt sun power solar panels, which I'm gonna put on tomorrow, or I don't know, I'm gonna need some help. They're pretty heavy. I'm gonna need some help trying to get them on the roof of the bus. But, because I wanna do that safely, I don't wanna break them for sure on the way. But yeah, the distance between the two panels is 64. From the outside of the distance between the two rails is 64, and that's a 64. It's an outer measurement. So if the panels are 72, then that means I have an 8 extra inches. So I'm gonna have 4 inches overhanging on each side of each end of the rail. Yeah, and then the cool thing about this orientation, so the solar panels, I'm gonna put 2 here in the front, in front of this hatch. Then I'm gonna leave this hatch empty. Then I'm gonna put 3 panels in between the 2 hatches. And then I actually have to see, I'm not sure if I can if this is going to be high enough to totally clear the hatch. But if the solar panels will be high enough to sit above the hatch, then I'll just put, instead of 3, I'll put all 4. And then the rear end will just be free to do whatever I want, which is also a deck. I'm also going to have to cut the end of these rails because they're overextending a little bit, and that's unnecessary. But from what I understand, you can cut those with like a hacksaw, with a sawzall. So yeah, if there isn't enough height clearance here, which will be a bummer because there's probably, if there isn't, then there isn't by like 1 centimeter or so, and we don't really need this roof hatch. So it's on my radar either, first of all, to delete this roof hatch and just put some sheet metal cover on it. And I bought the material to do it. I have the sheet metal right over there. So I just need to cut out a thing, and then I have the experience of doing it. I covered these. This was a rear vent, which was leaking and totally not functional, so I just deleted that. So deleting this rear thing shouldn't be a huge deal. But I'm not going to do that today. But either way, if I can't put a solar panel above it, I'll put the solar panel in the rear, then I'll cover this with a deck, and the rear with the deck, I don't know, I'll figure something out. Maybe like a trapdoor deck, which can slide off to the side or can open to the side, because right now, the rear one I don't need. The front one I may cover with a deck, or I don't know, because right now this is one of the only ways to get up onto the roof. The other way is just to shimmy up from the wheelchair lift. But I am also planning to put some climbing holds along the side and back of the bus, so that's going to help us. That's going to enable me to get up onto the roof of the bus as well. But yeah, overall, yeah, let's get I can't throw these boxes off the roof, but yeah, let's just get one more shot of those rails. Those are dope. I'm excited as hell. To say I'm happy about the way these came out would be an understatement. I'm freaking ecstatic about how this came out. It was super easy. Got it done in 4 hours, 5 hours maybe, not including like the prep time, obviously, which the prep time was significant. And definitely not including the research time, because to say I did a little bit of research, to say I did a lot of research before doing this would be an understatement. I'm like a research guy, so try to find the best way to do stuff. So yeah, that's a wrap. And these freaking solar panels are gonna go on tomorrow. But look at those rails. Those are hot. Peace. So let's just give one more shot of those rails. I took the boxes off the roof. That's hot. There's the rail. There's the other rail. And I could have put these L brackets on the inside or the outside. It's definitely smarter to put them on the inside, because if they're like, obviously the solar panels are going to overhang here a bit, but if there's like any branches or dirt or debris or something, they could get caught on the L brackets if they're facing the other side. I mean, if they're facing on this side as well, they could get caught, but it just seems like a much better way to leave the exterior part clean and empty. So yeah, just a pro tip from a noob. Yeah. So I went around and did another round of tightening, and I noticed a couple of things. First of all, I'm super happy that I used these roofing screws with the neoprene washer, because the amount this stuff spreads out is a good indicator of how tight, if you've tightened it enough. So some of them I saw that the neoprene washer hadn't spread out, so I knew that I need to tighten it some more, so it's a good gauge. The other thing I noticed is these little T-bolts have, they sit in the channel, and then if you turn them 90 degrees, then they'll lock in. So they have this little line. When it's up and down, it means the nut is locked in place. So they all but two of them were locked in place. And I noticed it because there was much more of the thread sticking out. So I was like, why aren't all the threads sticking out? So then I noticed the little line and I saw that, okay, this is how they have to be. So this is the right amount of sticking outness. But yeah, I just wanted to point those two things out. And yeah, the butyl rubber is great. There's plenty of oozing. And then I should probably seal this around these maybe. But yeah, this is definitely gonna be probably pretty leak proof, even as is. So I'm gonna go ahead and get off this roof and watch this beautiful ass sunset. But yeah, I guess you could call this day a great success. I'm very happy.